Well, hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at how to write equations in slope-intercept form. I'm Mr. Casil. Let's get started. Our first example is negative 2y minus 4 is equal to negative 7x. Now the thing to point out is that when we're solving for slope-intercept form, when we're writing the equations that way, all we're really saying is that we're solving for y. And to solve for y means we just want that by itself on one side of the equation. So we're going to look at undoing the addition and subtraction. We're going to look at undoing the multiplication and division to get y by itself. So the first step here, we have our y with the negative 2 being multiplied and the 4 being subtracted. We can divide by negative 2 first, but that's not going to be very easy for us. It's not going to make it easier to solve for y. So first, we will want to add by 4 on both sides. And when we add by 4 on both sides, we will not combine it with the negative 7x because they're not like terms. So what we're left with is that negative 2y left over on our left side. And on the other side now, we have the negative 7x plus that 4. What comes next is now we just need to undo that multiplication. We undo multiplication with division. So we want to divide by the negative 2. We want to divide everything by the negative 2. And here's why we didn't want to start with dividing by negative 2. If we started with dividing by negative 2, we would still have to divide it by everything. And it's easier now to divide negative 2 into everything because it's all on one side and the y is still going to be left by itself because anything divided by itself, negative 2 divided by negative 2, is just 1. And since the negative 2 now on the right is going into both the 4 and the negative 7, we're able to write that as two separate division problems. So our y is left over. We've solved for y. And now on the other side of the equation, we have negative 7x divided by negative 2. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, so 7x over 2. But another way to write that, since we are looking for slope-intercept form, so we can see our slope easier, is to have 7/2 x plus 4 divided by negative 2 is just negative 2. And rather than adding by negative 2, we could write that as subtracting by 2. Perfect. That's what we're looking for. Y is by itself. We're golden. We're good to go. Let's take a look at another example here. The next example has a 0 on one side, and on the other side we have a negative y minus 6 plus 3x. Now, if any of you were thinking, man, Mr. Casil has terrible handwriting, you are correct, since I'm writing with my finger on my touch screen. So thank you for being patient and working with me on this. My handwriting may or may not get better by the end. We'll see. Here, our goal is the same. We're trying to get y by itself on one side. And there's two different ways to do that. We could move the 6 and the 3 to the left, but notice it's going to take more steps than just moving the y to the other side. So with all of these, there are multiple routes we can take. Just moving the negative y is going to be easier and faster. So that's what I'm going to model here. First things first, because we're subtracting the y, that's what that negative y represents, we undo subtraction with addition. So we want to add by y on both the left and the right. And what that leaves us with is just y equals then everything else on the other side. And who'd have thunk it, that solves for y equals mx plus b. Ladies and gentlemen, the thing that I need to point out that's essential here is that mx plus b doesn't have to have the m first. Our positive 3 is our slope. That is our m, even though it's written second. And so we have our y equals mx plus b. We've solved for y. So we're done with our second example. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to scroll over here a little bit. If you need to look at that first example, just rewind the video. Let's take a look at our third and last example here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 9x plus 4y equal to 8. Now, in this example, this happens to also be in standard form. We know that because both the x and the y are on one side of the equation. So this is what we call standard form, but that's just an aside. our goal is still the same. Our goal is to get y by itself on one side of the equation. Now, in the last example, I pointed out that the negative y was easy to move over because it was just one step. Here, if we try to take care of the y first, it involves the same amount of work either way as moving y but to the other side, because then it's going to be with the 8, as just moving x to the other side. And so, since it's going to be the same amount of work anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move the x to the other side. And since we're adding the 9x, we're going to need to subtract the 9x on both sides. That leaves us with the 4y equal to the 8, and then we're still subtracting by the 9x. I don't know if you could hear my wonderful cat in the background. His name's Ali. He wanted to cat bomb the video, so he may end up making an appearance. We'll see. We have the 4y equal to 8 minus 9x. The y is not yet by itself, so all we need to do is divide by the 4. And if you notice that there's a pattern, that's not on accident. It's just on how math works. We are, excuse me, I'm going to scroll down the video a little bit. Just like with the negative 2 in the very first example, we're dividing everything by 4, which means we're really working with two separate division problems. 4 divided by 4, next to the y is just 1, so we're left with just 1y by itself, equal to 8 divided by 4 is 2, and then we're looking at negative 9x divided by 4, but 9 and 4 don't go into each other, so we're just looking at minus 9/4 x. So we can easily see what our slope is. Our slope is negative 9/4. Our y-intercept is 2. And all that's just to say we've solved for y, so we have it in our slope-intercept form. Hey, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Remember when you're typing into Canvas to write your fractions and your answers using a backslash. So for example, if we were to write this answer into Canvas, we'd probably want to write it in slope-intercept form with the m first. So we're writing negative 9/4 x plus 2. Hey, thank you all. Good luck. Don't hesitate to email your teachers if you have any questions.